Hello, Chris Noack, broker 1052. Here we are again. Today or now, we are going to go over the buyer agency contract amendment as in regards to the NAR settlement. These documents must be completed by midnight on the 14th in order to go into effect 15th, which is the date of the settlement. On the buyer agency contract amendment, this is for any existing buyer agencies that you currently have that are not under contract. So these are active buyers agencies, not under contract, must be amended to the new format by the end of the day on the 14th. The buyer is going to go here. The broker is here. And recently, the National Association of Realtors, NAR, has been involved in a legal proceeding related to its rules and policies governing real estate transactions, specifically those involving compensation structures and practices. In an effort to resolve these issues, NAR has proposed a settlement that includes changes to its rules and policies. The most significant change is that offers of compensation will no longer be listed in the multiple listing service. These changes are designed to enhance your ability to make informed decisions during your real estate transaction. Except as set forth herein, the contractual obligations and conditions outlined in your buyer agency are still valid and enforceable. This amendment is effective August 14th, 2024, if the buyer by that date has not executed a sales contract. The terms of the contract between the buyer and broker dated X is hereby modified. This is going to be the date of the original buyer agency. The compensation to broker. Compensation to broker is no longer offered by a seller's broker to broker through the multiple listing service. The seller may agree, but is not required to pay the fees of a buyer's broker. Buyer acknowledges there are no standard compensation rates, and the compensation in this buyer agency contract is fully negotiable and not set by law. And broker is prohibited from receiving compensation for brokerage services that exceed the amount of compensation in the buyer agency contract. A. The broker shall be entitled to compensation for assisting the negotiating and the procurement of property acceptable to the buyer. The buyer's fee shall be. The amount of the compensation will be X. Other compensation X. So depending upon what it is that you are going to charge those buyers needs to be filled here, i.e. 3%. i.e. other compensation, flat fee, $395 transaction. This is the number that is going to be the responsibility of the buyer ultimately at the end of the day after closing of a transaction. The buyer agency explains where exactly we are going to garner those fees. However, the buyer does need to understand that at this point in time, they are the ultimate responsible party, just as in before, and then we can collect those fees at closing. So again, this is what the compensation will be and any additional compensation, for example, the transaction fee. The buyer may seek an agreement from the seller to pay the broker up to this compensation amount. The buyer is responsible for payment of any compensation not covered by the seller, or the buyer will forego the purchase of said property. The buyer understands and agrees the broker may be compensated by more than one party in the transaction. However, the broker is prohibited from receiving compensation for brokerage services that exceed the amount of compensation in this agreement. Buyer hereby authorizes the party handling the closing to pay commission to broker from buyer's funds at closing, if applicable. And B, retainer additional compensation addendum attached. You can charge buyers a retainer for your services, and if so, you are going to need to complete an additional document. At this point in time, I don't believe anyone that I am aware of is going to be doing this. And it is something that we would need to investigate further. Again, carefully read the terms hereof before signing. When signed by all parties, it is a legally binding contract. If not understood, consult an attorney. Our disclosure statement is here. This is the amendment for the current buyer's agencies in place, not under contract, and must be completed by the end of the day on the 14th. Thank you.